Okay, so describe your son. What is he like?
I have a 16-year-old teenage boy who is, in my words, typical teenage boy. He likes to play video games. He plays or he watches TV. He likes to hang out with his friends, go skateboarding, likes to eat a lot. Um, he has a curfew. He has rules. He has consequences when he breaks those rules. Just a typical teenage boy.
So you would say you and your husband are pretty involved in his life and his siblings' life.
Yes, we are very involved parents. We know where they're, going, or where if they go out of the house, we know where they're going to be. We have communication of when they are going to be coming home, and yeah, we are very involved.
So when you say he's a typical teen, um, is he running around with his friends all the time? And I think you said you do know where he is, though.
We do. He hangs out with his friends. It's usually at a friend's house, or if they are going to be somewhere like a skate park or something like that, we know where he's going to be and what time he's going to be returning home.
Before this incident, did you have any problems with him? Has he ever been in trouble with the law? Drugs that you know of?
No problems whatsoever previous to this.
No drugs that you knew of?
No, no drugs that we knew of. Once he had this incident, he did inform us that he had been smoking marijuana previously for about a year, but occasionally, once every couple months. That was it.
Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me very much. We had no idea before that.
When you think of that, you said you were involved in his life, so you were doing what you could though to find out what, if anything, he was doing.
Yeah, we had no idea. I mean, I didn't smell it on any of his clothes. He didn't look like he was stoned when he would come home. Um, had no idea. Even though we were involved, had no idea this was going on.
But this incident was a little different. Why don't you go ahead and describe to us this incident in your own words? What happened?
So, very recently, one morning, I got a phone call from my son. He gave me the code to let me know that he was in trouble. So I went and picked him up. He was about a block away from school. He did look like he had fallen down. He had some mud on his pants. When he got in the car, I asked him, okay, well, what happened? Because to me, he looked like he was intoxicated. He informed me that he had smoked dabs. I had no idea what that was. So as we were making our way home, I found out that it was, in his words, high potent marijuana. However, he thought it was laced with something else. He was thinking crack. He thought that because it was totally different from his other experiences with smoking a marijuana joint. He was seeing the world as a cartoon. He said everything was very bright colors. He was also hearing sirens, and he was hearing people yelling, and there was, nothing there. It was completely quiet in our vehicle. When we got home, he had started to throw up. So at that time, I called the nurse, our clinic nurse, to see, what needs to be done. So she and I decided I would bring him down to the emergency room. As we were getting him ready, he started to throw up some more, and he was having trouble breathing. So at that time, I was scared as hell, and I called 911. He kept holding his throat, telling me that he couldn't breathe. Um,
How scary was that as a mother, as you're sitting in there, you're waiting for the ambulance, and you have no idea what's going on?
I was so scared. Nothing like that had ever happened before. I didn't know, I kept waiting to hear the sirens to, coming closer, and it seemed like it was taking forever. And I was just scared, not knowing if he was able to breathe, if he was going to die before they even got there. I had no idea. I was so scared.
Did you ever fear at one point that that could be the result?
I did, especially when he wasn't breathing. I didn't know if he had aspirated or if this was some sort of reaction to the drug he had taken.
So you were in fear of his life.
I was. I was very, very in fear of his life.
So the ambulance comes, takes him to the hospital. Describe to us what happens at the hospital.
At the hospital, they took a urine sample. They wanted to check to see if by chance there was anything else that was in the drugs that he took. Came back with marijuana only. But they continued to monitor him for about 4 hours to make sure his vital signs were okay, to make sure his heart wouldn't race. They ended up being fine, and we did come home. However, he was basically passed out as if you were binge drinking for almost 12 hours. You could, poke him and wake him up, and he would mumble to you and give you an answer, but then he would pass back out again.
At the hospital, were you concerned, even though he was under the care of doctors?
Oh, yes. I was constantly kind of watching his chest to make sure he was breathing, even though he was on the monitors. And I was also watching the monitors to make sure his heart was still beating and beating normal. And there were times when it would go down a little bit, but that was just because he was starting to go deeper into sleep. But, as a mother, I just kind of panicked, like, is everything okay? And then it would go back up normal, and it was a scary time.
What did the doctor say about this and his reaction to, at that time, whatever he had taken?
They had never heard of this either. He did sit down with us and talk about marijuana abuse, different things that we could go get help if we needed to. He suggested talking to a school counselor.
He being the doctor?
Yes, the doctor. But the doctor didn't really, he was concerned too because of not knowing what this drug was and what could even happen if there is possibility of some future thing happening to him. Like, they have no idea.
At what point did you learn that this was marijuana wax?
When we got home from the hospital, I started to go online to see what I could learn about this because I wasn't getting any answers at the hospital. Nobody knew anything. And I realized, kind of read about marijuana wax, but the sites that I read were mainly pro-marijuana sites, and I wasn't sure if that was the correct information or what was really good information.
At what point did you learn that this is some really high potent stuff and it can be severely harmful to you?
Yes, with reading that information, it did state that it could be up to 90% of the
THC levels.
Thank you, the THC levels, which kind of really scared me to know that it could be that high, and also the fact that it's made with butane. From what I was reading, there's possibilities of people getting butane poisoning from smoking this also, if not all the butane has been burned off. So that was also a concern that I started looking up side effects of butane poisoning just to kind of watch my son to make sure that he wasn't having that.
So this isn't your typical marijuana that you hear about?
No, not at all. Not with the reaction that he had.
Had you ever heard of marijuana wax before this?
I had not.
Reading about how it's made, the potency, what are your thoughts now looking back that your son actually took this?
Scares the crap out of me that he took this, that he thought that this was something that was safe.
Have you had a discussion with your son? What does he say about this now?
We have talked. He says this really scared him from ever trying this again. He had no idea he would have that type of reaction, and it really did scare him.
We're hearing that this is becoming a more popular drug on the streets. Some of our violent crime enforcement teams have been seeing this more and more on the streets. As a mother who has gone through this, how worried are you that this is going to get into the hands of other teenagers, young adults, or even adults?
I am very worried. This is a very scary drug that nobody knows very much about, and I don't think anybody really knows the side effects that could happen in the future too. So this is really scary that it's becoming more and more popular.
It was very important for you to talk to the community about this. Give them a little insight as to how important this is for you.
I think it's very important. I think other parents need to be aware that this is out there. Everybody needs to be aware, grandparents, parents, teachers, even policemen, some of them don't even know what this is. So I think it really needs to be known that, and have everybody know what could happen, and just to be aware that it's out there.
Do you feel lucky that your son only suffered a reaction and not worse?
Oh, I feel very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that he and I have a close enough relationship that when he got scared that he was able to call me.
Some people out there might say, I've tried this stuff. That doesn't happen. There's no way that's going to happen to me.
They're fooling themselves. I think we all think we're invincible, but it very well could happen. It happened to my son.
If you could speak to those teens, young adults, parents out there, adults out there, what is the one thing you want them to know from your story?
That this is scary stuff, that your children could die from taking it, and to talk to them, let them know that this is out there, and not to tell them not to smoke it.
Is there a message your son wanted to send?
Yeah, he was pretty scared about what happened. He was, I think, in other words, in whatever words, scared straight. I don't think he'll ever try this again. He's really nervous about anything now. Not anything, but trying anything.
Is this a wake-up call, do you think, for communities like yours around the rest of our state, as we hopefully won't hear about it, but unfortunately it sounds like it's making its way more prevalent?
I do think it's a wake-up call, and it would be really great if we could stop it before it gets too bad.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.